Hello, everyone. This is Waldorf,
And this is Statler.
and today just thought we'd talk briefly about. I just watched Once Bitten's. Keep trying to use his name. I just watched Once Bitten's video on creating and maintaining a kind of more creating a local gaming club, keeping interest going or whatever. And I thought we'd add a couple comments to that, as well as a couple other points. But just want to start off by saying it was a fantastic video he put out.
We'll put the link in the...
And there will be a link in there if you haven't seen it all. I can't imagine you will have seen this without seeing that, but
you never know.
If you haven't, there'll definitely be a link down below that you can click on to follow up with it. I got to kind of second what he said on a lot of it because, well, one thing I went into locally, at least for me, we had a situation where there was a store, our primary store that we used to go to called the Game Parlor. Well, they opened a second store about 45 minutes away,
right,
down south, and I was friends with the owner. Used to go to both stores, and I would go down there, and there's actually no Warhammer scene at all at the other. I mean, nothing being played. So I talked to the store owner, and we got together, and the two of us decided that we were going to meet there every Monday night, and we were going to play through the scenarios in the old Warhammer, probably at that point, 6th edition, 5th edition book.
5th or 4th, I don't remember.
Yeah, even further back maybe.
Yeah.
But we decided we were going to play through all, so there was only 6 scenarios, but we figured we would go through all of them, and we would play each one twice, one from each side. Because a lot of times there was the attacker-defender thing. But what happened is, by the time we got into Game 4, the crowd had grown. People were coming by, seeing us playing, and they would they would stop by and talk to us, and we would stop the game, talk to anyone who came up. By the time we got through, Game 4, which is roughly 7-8 games,
right,
there was a big crowd because had a set night we were doing it, and the people said, I've been looking for this place to play for a long time. There's a Games Workshop thing across the street, but they only have 2 tables, and I don't like, some of the crowd that goes in there. But what happened, like I said, people saw it being played on a regular basis, on a regular night. They knew they could come this night and get in a game. And it went from having nothing in 4 months. We were having 14, 16 players a night show up. Ran a couple campaigns. It was fun.
Well, even before that, because we've had a game group, and we've been gaming together a very long time, and
yes,
both of us have been gamed even before that at different levels.
Exactly.
So I even remember when we first decided to play Fantasy Battle as somewhat as a group.
Correct.
Basically, what it was some leadership. It was 1 or 2 people saying, "I'm going to buy this army, and I'm going to try to play this,"
right,
and 2 people agreeing to do that. And since we had a group, and I think this is something that you have quite often, particularly in a store environment, you have a lot of lemmings. I mean, we're all lemmings to some degree.
Yes.
Something sounds good. We just need somebody to push us along to go down that path.
You need an organizer. You need
an organizer.
Rah guy.
Exactly. A couple people bought it. We started painting some armies. We started playing. And before we knew it, more people were buying armies. And we had a hobby shop that stocked the armies.
Yes.
So you have that somewhat of a... It's right there, and you can't help yourself. It's shiny.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have
Correct.
it because it looks so cool. Now that you actually know people that are doing it or see people doing it. And it was the same thing. And that was up here before the Woodbridge store. And,
right,
and we grew the group here. And then we had other groups starting to form around us,
Correct.
that had their friends.
Spin-off
and they were like spin-off groups, and they
yes,
went off in, at various levels of success. So, and that's just this one game system. Now we've got
Correct.
plenty of game systems that we've played
over
for different
years.
things,
Mm-hmm.
over the years. And it's all kind of the same story. It's usually, 1 or 2 people saying, "Hey, let's do this. I want to do this."
Right.
And
who's in?
And kind of, I won't say pushing away the naysayers, but basically being positive, saying, yeah, because every rule, let's be honest, every rule system's got shortcomings. There's things we don't like.
Correct.
Frankly, that's what some of the fun, so we can complain, over beer, about
after the game, you sit around.
Exactly. That's some of the fun of the hobby, So, and you'd have a hobby shop where you'd have an ability to actually get the items right there to feed those people that need that instant gratification. And you have that set time. That was a key to.
That was a key to all of our things that we've done that's successful.
Because sometimes only 2 people would show up.
Right.
Other times, 16 people would show up. So
we've had games we played to a lesser degree, like once a month.
Right.
But it was whatever it was. The first Monday of the month, we would play this.
Yep.
And people knew and would show up.
And and I think the key, because sometimes you also have times, this is actually a very transient area.
Correct.
People come, people go. So you also need to always have new people coming in because you're always losing people. And no one from the Washington metropolitan area is from here. I'm not from here.
I am.
You actually are.
I am.
Yeah. So, but the key is sticking with it, because you're going to have some slow times you're going to lose people, or people are on vacation or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you got to stick with it, and you do that. And I think that's really important for any type of gaming experience.
Yeah. And like again, as once been said in his video, if somebody comes up and is looking at your game, take the break. I mean, take a pause. At least say hi. How you doing? What do you think? You're interested? Be friendly to people. I mean, Chad told the story of going to a new store where no one would talk to him.
Yes, been there, done that.
And yes, you go into a new store, no one wants to talk to you at all. It's whatever. You can't do that and expect to grow your group.
I mean, it is hard because I do think most gamers tend to be introverted.
They do.
So you do have to kind of reach a little bit outside of your shell and try. And sometimes it's as simple as people walk up and they have an interest, particularly if the game isn't a competitive game, and try to invite people in, say, hey, you want to join us? Right. Oh, I don't have any troops. Hey, you can play with me.
Correct.
Or, do whatever. Play group games are actually, I think, really helped us early on to get started. Yeah, especially when we all only had a few units painted, so you could get stuff onto the table. But invite people in the game, because the first thing people want to do is buy their own new army.
Right.
What doesn't anybody have? Well, they haven't even figured out how to play the game, much less if that army fits their personal play style.
Their play style, their preference once they get it.
And then they get all demoralized, because they bought the wrong army and, they decide they don't actually pay that much, and they pick Skaven.
So they've only got like 300 figures that they wasted.
Yeah. So, so I think, inviting people and let them trying things, I think that actually gets people energized.
Yeah, it does. I mean, like I said, the group games we used to play, whatever it was, were really good for that.
Yeah.
And like you said a minute ago, gamers, a lot of gamers tend to be introverted people and not willing to kind of put themselves out there. So you've got to take it onto yourself to kind of introduce yourself, to bring them into your group.
And sometimes you have to push them a little bit because they're going to be polite at first. Oh, no, it's okay, I'll just watch. And because they think, you're just being polite.
Correct.
Well, you are being polite, but you really want them to get interested because you want more people.
You need your group to grow.
To grow,
Over the years when we've had difficulties in different game stores we played, something's come up, this has come up, whatever. People have always said, well, let's just start playing at my place.
Yeah.
I've got rooms for 3 or 4 tables. Let's play at my place. And, we have fought, the two of us especially, have fought that really hard over the years. Because once you've done that, your group's done.
It's dead.
The size of your group is not changing.
It doesn't know it yet, but it's dead.
Yeah,
it's changing. It's getting smaller.
Yeah, it's just not going to go anywhere.
Now, if you like, some people like playing with the same opponent all the time.
Correct.
And if you got 2 buddies, there's nothing wrong with it. That's great. But if you're someone who wants to try against different opponents, different armies, try different things, you really have to have a group that kind of supports that.
Yeah.
And playing occasionally at your house is one thing, but more than that, you need to have that common location that anyone can meet at, and even that supports your store, because then your store says, hey, we got that game. It's run on Tuesday nights at 7.
Correct.
And then people can start, well, maybe I'll make that.
Right.
Well,
that's one of the things we also had, and this is kind of touching on another point too, is in our local store, in the game parlor, especially the one up here where we primarily are in Chantilly, the game parlor there had an employee there who was a very friendly, outgoing employee. He would talk to every customer that came in, talk to them, ask them what games they played, blah, blah, blah. And no matter what game it was, we've got a group that plays here X night. They do this. They're always looking for new players. And I can't tell you how many times we were in the middle of the game when the employee came up to us and brought a guy up to us. Oh, by the way, this guy's looking at getting into Warhammer. Can you show him a couple things or whatever? And we were glad to do it because, again, he was helping us.
Absolutely.
We kind of helped him as well because, if the guy does get interested and buys an army, there it is. It's a sale for them.
And if you have a local hobby shop, it is a symbiotic relationship. And I think people forget this sometimes.
They do when they say they can say, I can save 15% if I buy this online.
Exactly.
You can't.
That's not a symbiotic relationship.
No.
Because you have that local hobby shop. They're putting their time because they've got staff there. Mm-hmm. They're putting their money because they have lights. They have facilities for you.
Correct. And they're paying for that space.
And they're paying for all that space. And how they pay for that space is by selling stuff.
Right.
So, and that gives you an opportunity to meet buddies and get together with groups of people, meet new people, and have stuff at your hands whenever you want it to be there. So part of that is you want a store that helps push people towards your gaming group.
Correct.
But there's also kind of, I think, an unwritten rule that you need to help that store actually make some money by buying stuff.
You've got to buy stuff at that store.
And I always, when I hear somebody say you can save 10% buying it from FRP or the War Store or whatever, that's fine. You can buy from those places. But, actually pay for shipping half the time. You didn't really save anything.
Yeah.
Or you saved a couple dollars. Was it really worth it for waiting longer? Right. Maybe you only got in a partial order fill or whatever, when you could have supported your local game store.
And could have had it the next day, probably. Pretty much.
Exactly. Now, I'm not saying that you should buy everything from your local game store. There's some things they can't get.
Right.
You might get a great deal on eBay or whatever.
Correct.
But, you shouldn't... what I always would bug me, people actually direct business away from their local game store. Then they wonder why they don't exist anymore.
Correct. I mean, because we've gone, like I said, we had the game parlor here in Chantilly. They ran for 22 years, was it? 21, 22 years?
Something like that, 24, I don't...
Yeah, I mean, the number was up there. It might have been 24, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But we were playing at this store, and now it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
We are extremely fortunate in that there are two other local stores, which you'll see the names of during the battle reports, Huzzah Hobbies and Island Games, that are both local as well, with plenty of game space to play in. But had those two not been there, when Game Parlor went out, that could have been the death knell for our group, But so you have to support your store. You have to. I mean, they're technically not making any money off you sitting in the back of their store playing games.
Correct.
So you need to buy from them, help them out, keep them in business.
It doesn't mean you just buy things just to buy things. I mean, once again, it's symbiotic. You support your hobby, and they support your hobby. You support them, they support you.
Yes.
And then you do things to support your gaming group so it keeps it growing. And why do you do that? Because it gives you more opponents, more people to game with, more people to have a beer with afterwards.
Yes, exactly.
To tell wargaming stories.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, I mean,
and build friendships.
Yeah, I've known you for 26 years now, somewhere around there?
Yeah, something like 92, I guess.
92, yeah, it's been a while. And had it not been for that game parlor store, I would have never met you, probably.
Yeah. Probably not.
But I'm just saying, I mean, and I've got several friends that I've met at the store, and they've been, I mean, good friends of mine for years now.
Exactly.
Which, had that store not been there, it wouldn't have happened. But
the best man at a couple weddings, and that's only because of
the store.
Because of the store.
Exactly. But support your store. Be as friendly as you can to people coming up. Like you said, they're introverted. Somebody talking to them actually will definitely help to
draw them in,
bring them into the game.
Absolutely.
These are the kind of things you need to do to keep building. You can also run. We never ran many tournaments. We ran campaigns.
Well, we ran campaigns, but we also, I was more involved in the game club at that time.
Oh,
the
correct.
Old game club.
The old game club.
Because I was an officer. So,
right.
we had our game days.
You did.
So and we had our 2-day tournament conventions. So that's kind of the equivalent of running a
tournament.
To me, as a tournament.
Yes.
It's some type of an event, and it's a big deal event that people can plan the calendar around. It's not just playing a game against somebody, but I can play a whole bunch of games. I can maybe buy something different. I can maybe win prizes, whatever it is. People show up that don't normally come around because it's a special event. Like going to a party to a certain degree. It's kind of like when we used to have our annual big games, for example.
Yeah.
Gamers that we didn't see for almost a year because they were just too busy with life. When you get to our age, that's the case. Is that they'd show up for that. They'd mark it on their calendar.
We even had a couple guys that living out of town, flying back in,
flying into town from halfway across the country.
Big game, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, these are things these are event types of things that you can really do to draw people.
So you're right. I guess it doesn't have to be a tournament, campaign, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Something to draw people in and keep their interest.
Exactly.
And give them a target date for something.
And for a lot of people too, I think you have to make it fresh, because while there are some people that would be very happy playing the same game with the same army every day for the rest of their lives,
right?
There are some people that need to change. They need to change things up, and there's probably there's many of those as there are the others.
Yes.
And that's why you need to refresh games rules. That's why you need to refresh armies. Those are people that tend to have multiple armies, So they're the ones that you need to not just do the same thing over and over again. You need to bring something different into the game scene every so often.
Right.
No,
I agree. Makes sense.
Or they'll find their own thing and drift off and do that someplace else.
Then you're down a player somewhere.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
But yeah, like I said, that's what it is. I mean, then when the Woodbridge store that we created the big Warhammer scene went out of business, and they closed down that one, went back to Chantilly, came back up and joined into the group that was still playing here, the Iron Fist group, where you'll see a lot of the other guys that still are the core of CGL is actually those guys.
Right.
I joined them.
Right.
But at that point, they had all kind of dropped out of the tournaments. No one was doing any. They were having a 1 day, 2 or 3 times a year they'd have a 1 day tournament at the game parlor.
Right.
But that was all those people were. That's all the club was doing at that point. So I got a friend. I talked a friend of mine into going down to South Carolina with me to Southern Assault, because I had never been to a 2-day grand tournament before. So things in my life had changed, and I got, like I said, had some time freed up. So I talked one of my friends into going with me to one of these tournaments. We went to Southern Assault at the old, Parker Banner, Kent Wayne, and near Charlotte, down there. Went there, had a fantastic time. I mean, it was incredible. So came back, started talking to everybody. This was 5 years ago. Started talking to everybody about what a great time it was. Got a couple more to come to the next one. Got a couple more. Now CGL, the club, is regularly turning out 8 to 12 players in every Mid-Atlantic tournament.
Right.
I mean, we're traveling the 4.5 hours down to Durham several times a year. Williamsburg tournaments. I mean,
you went to Buckeyes last year.
A few of us went to. We had a crowd. 4 of us went to Buckeye last year. We are, which is a 7.5 hour, something like that drive. But we're turning into the club kind of changed into a more of a tournament club, and that added a whole nother level of cooperation, because now we'll get together and we'll play a game, and we'll sit around after the game. Oh, okay. Well, what do you think about this army? What can I do to fix this? How do I deal with this? So it became a much more cooperative group. And one thing I got to say, I went down there to Southern Assault, and I got my butt kicked. I was considered one of the better players for a long time, but
with the local group.
With the local group. But you go down there, and
big fish in a small pond.
You learn things. You learn what chaff is. You learn what redirectors are. You learn, that frenzy is actually a liability. It's not just a big bonus for you. But like I said, had a great time doing it, and ever since I've jumped into it, I've had a great time. keep trying to pull more people into it, because if you enjoy fantasy battles, a tournament is a fun place to be, because you're around a bunch of other people who that's what they're interested in.
Yeah. Now I'm on the other side of the ledger.
You're on the other side where we don't allow you out of the house.
Yeah, I'm not a tournament person.
You are not.
You know, I did tournaments when I was a bit younger. I went to old GW Grand tournaments. Right. I still do doubles tournaments. That's about the only tournaments I'll play now are doubles tournaments. So I'm more of a relaxed type of gamer. But to be that relaxed type of gamer, I need people to game with.
Right.
And we have a group that meets regular every week, and we get together, and sometimes we game then, and that's important to me. So I think whether you're a tournament style person, or you're not, or you're a fluff person more,
Yeah, and we have our group has a mix of still have quite a few.
And
you
have a mix. You have both types of people, but you need to have enough people to have that critical mass.
Correct.
To fulfill both, and it just keeps it in, because the tournament guys are bringing in new ideas and trying to, which actually helps when you're playing.
Yes.
So you're learning new things if you're not exposing yourself to that. So, and then I think the fluff guys sometimes keep the tournament guys a little down to earth, so they're not overly competitive, because we've all run into the overly competitive gamer, and that can just ruin your life for 2.5 hours.
It can.
Yeah, but some of that's on you too, and how do you respond to that? And when you're into enjoying the game, and you remember that. So I think there's those two things balanced, and you need both in any group. So
yeah. Oh, the other thing I meant to mention about that first tournament I ever went to, I managed to run up against some guy that you might be familiar with, Once Bitten, in my very first tournament game. So anyway. That didn't go well for me. But I don't know if he even remembers that, but that was actually my first tournament game.
Back when he was playing the Bretonnians?
He was playing Bretonnians at the time. Actually, he had just switched from his Beastmen, I believe.
Okay.
And gone to Bretonnians.
Yeah, I think I remember, yes.
I think now he's back to Beast.
He's back to his Beast Herds, yes.
But, now Beast Herds. But
anyway,
again, we have players that are interested in tournaments, some not. I've even a couple of people have gone to the tournaments and then come back and said, "Yeah, it was fun, but I don't think I'm going to do that again."
Yeah, not my thing.
So it just happens.
But I mean, a lot of gaming to people. I mean, I know to myself, it's a social.
It is
thing. I mean, as I said, whether you may watch a football game on Sunday and meet with buddies and talk about that, or you might play a game of fantasy battle and
hang around and talk about
that. You may talk about the new changes to, FIFA soccer rules, or you may talk about the new changes to ninth age rules. Whatever it is, it's just things that bring you together. One of the other things that we've done, regularly, and of course it's coming and gone, are like doing group painting events where we'd show up at people's houses or wherever and just watch football or watch something and paint and BS for 3 or 4 hours.
Football or a movie running in the background while we're painting and talking to each other.
So talking about the game, but working on the models together.
That's another thing you can, if you have this available to you, thank your local hobby store. Our store did not do painting in the store.
Correct.
So we had to have these painting sessions at houses at different places. But it's a great way to encourage other people painting. And it's a great way to help learn painting, because you're around the several other guys. I'm sure some of them are going to be more talented than you are.
And you can learn from almost everybody something. And I don't know how many people that
I don't think anyone's learned anything from mine. Sorry, go ahead.
Don't be so sure. I don't know how many people that I've seen and the different games we've played who've been intimidated by painting.
Yes,
you were in that camp.
I was definitely in that camp.
Were afraid to do it, didn't want to do it,
Still
whatever.
There.
Yeah, I mean, we're all there to a certain degree.
Still mostly in that camp.
We all can't paint like Vince Venture. So,
yeah, exactly.
But just sitting down with somebody that you're comfortable with and trying things, and there's no pressure on you. And
it's extremely helpful. When we did the painting session, somebody would turn to me, "Why don't you try this with this?"
Yeah.
And okay, let me give it a shot. And hey, look, that works, and I can do it.
Exactly. And sometimes you go, and you pull out the oven cleaner, clean it up, and start over. But the beauty is you can start over.
But the beauty is you can start over.
The worst thing is you can start over. Right. That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
The best thing, it looks fantastic. So
Fantastic. Anyway, kind of wandered off point a lot of here, but just kind of an,
But really, it's about building community.
fireside chat, build a community.
And it's about, where when needed, do your part to show some leadership.
Yes.
Because everyone has to step up at something. You can't rely on, that's the other thing you see organizations, they rely on one guy.
You can't rely on one guy
to do everything. Because when that one guy gets tired of it or moves away, then everything falls apart.
Everything falls apart if that one guy's not there.
So you all have to do something, We all have to contribute in our own little way.
And a lot of those ways are not...
And they're not that hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just being friendly.
Being the friendly is the best thing you can do for a local community.
Exactly. And occasionally saying yes. It's hard for us. We're old and burly, but sometimes you just have to say yes.
Yes. But anyway, I think that's about it. I think we covered pretty much what I was looking for today.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
All right, till next time.